Hello everyone, it's been quite a while, but we're back with another video finally. I promised I would be, and here we are. So today we have a very important video, and in it we're going to lay one of four major building blocks, one of four cornerstones to all the work that I'll be doing, and hopefully you'll be doing some of it going forward. And that cornerstone is apprenticeship. Now, I was scratching my head for the last couple hours, how do I want to open this video? Because there's so many different angles I could go, and I have some very important points to get to regarding apprenticeship. But it dawned on me just a few minutes before I started filming that I think the appropriate opening is to recognize and acknowledge and appreciate all of the apprentices or all of the people that I have apprenticed myself to throughout my entire life. Mentors, coaches, teachers, even parents, if you count that as an apprenticeship. But especially the mentors and coaches through my life. I think there are two people in particular, maybe three, who are vital in the development for why I'm even here. And one of them I mentioned in this little booklet that I'm working on, which I mentioned in previous videos. I hope it will be available by the end of the year. It's called the 9 Principles of Excellent Performance, right here. And in this, there is one person in particular. There's two actually, but I'm going to highlight one today, whose name is Ken. And when I was a little 7th grader, I wasn't very little, I was a big 7th grader, he was playing Y-ball in the mornings with the adults. And he was the older guy, he was an adult, not too old, and I started playing as a 7th grader. One of my the youth pastor would pick me up and take me to the Y at like 6:30 in the morning over the summers. And he was there, Ken, and he took an interest in me because I was young and I was committed to getting better, and he offered to mentor me and for me to be his apprentice. And it only lasted for 2, 3, maybe 4 months, but that was such a transformational period in my life, because within those 2 months, with his guidance and his investment, and of course I put in the effort too, right? But because of that, I was able to like double my skill and jump a couple levels of ability while I was in junior high, and that set me up for a path for the rest of my life until now to use those same principles in all kinds of contexts. So just to begin this video, I want to thank everyone. There are many of you. Some of them are not alive, and some of them have not been alive for many years, which we'll get to shortly. I used the word pillar, and there's 4 pillars. If you've been paying attention to the intros, you probably know what those ones are. But the first and I think the most important one for what we're doing here is the first one, is apprenticeship. And before we go into apprenticeship, I want to say this. The thing in the middle, with the 4 pillars surrounding it, excellence in this case. In my opinion, excellence, like happiness and like many other things, are an emergent property. What does that mean? It means that, like a house, you can't get the roofs and the sides without the cornerstones being in place. In other words, apprenticeship is one of 4 vital pieces that give a almost passive emergence of excellence. Like happiness, you can't really chase happiness or chase excellence and find it. Like happiness, like the pursuit of happiness, it has to come through other means. We have to put in the effort to spread out, invest in these cornerstones, and then, in a philosophical term, the emergent property of excellence rises up. And apprenticeship is one of those vital means, okay? So, first of all, what is apprenticeship? I think we probably have a good understanding of it. It's pretty simple. Either you apprentice yourself to someone else, or you allow and invite someone to be apprenticed to you. It's important to view this as to view apprenticeship as heavily bent towards education. It's usually about learning, about imparting knowledge. It may be moral or artistic or culinary knowledge, but it's still knowledge and skill. It's very much education based. And these other pillars have aspects of that, and this whole, the Performance Philosopher is about it. It's an educational pursuit, but there are other things in life that are not exactly educational, even though they may be of this nature. But apprenticeship is certainly bent towards education. Okay, so it's simply embracing the tutelage of another, the mentorship, the coaching, the teaching, the parenting, whoever, whatever, or it's the opposite, where you are in the role of giving and providing and shaping someone else. Okay, and this is very, very important that we are committed to trying to fulfill both of these roles. Now, throughout our life, there will be opportunities that tilt one towards the other. Maybe we're in a time where we really just need to soak it up and be under 3 or 4 or 10 or 20 apprentices, or we apprentice ourselves to 5, 10, 20 of them, right? Different people. But then there might be other times where we are pouring into a variety of other people's lives. But I think it's important, even if you're young, to strive to have someone or something in your life that you are pouring into. I am certainly committed to having both of these sides there constantly, where I am, especially as I get older, having more people that I'm pouring into, typically people who are younger than me, though not always, but certainly always having people on the source, on the giving end, of people I'm learning from, people that I have decided that I'm going to accept their mentorship or teaching, okay? And this goes into the next really, really important main point here, which is, how do you get an apprenticeship, or how do you apprentice yourself to someone, and who can be an apprentice? And the answer is anyone, okay? Someone who wrote a book 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, you can apprentice yourself to them because it's a conscious choice to come under their teaching, right? Now, can you learn without being an apprentice? Yes, of course. You can read, you can be a scholar, you can do all those things, but that's a little bit different. But you, as someone who may respect that person, or you need to learn something from them, you want to learn how they did it, you choose to accept the role of student, to accept the role of an apprentice, and allow them to be the teacher, okay? So anyone can be your apprentice. I'll give you some examples. When I was in college, PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battleground, had just come out, and my brother, thank you, bought it for me, and I was really bad at first, but I was really enjoying it. And I, as my friends and family will tell you, I really hate being bad at things that I want to do, that I want to be good at. So I started to develop ways to get better. And I had taken this from years past when I was learning basketball and other things. And I would look up streamers on Twitch or YouTube who were good at the game and watch them. And I would study them. The main guy I watched was Choco Taco. He seems like a great guy, and I really enjoyed watching him. And I watched him a lot, and I studied how he played the game. I listened to how he would teach, with the approach and the mindset he had for the game. And within like a week, maybe 2, of learning his strategy, I probably got like 100 or 200% better. And that just continued for a few months as I was choosing to apprentice myself to him in order to play like he played, okay? Now, this is another important point here. The act of apprenticing is taking on the cloak of another person, doing as they did. It's almost like identity theft. It's playstyle theft. It's expertise theft. You are borrowing the way they do it, how they do it, and you are doing it that way because as you do it that way, it's going to start to work. And you may not understand why it's working, but it's working. And the more that you do that, the more the skill will become your own as you start to understand, oh my God, this is why it's working, okay? And that is a sign of reaching a checkpoint in the apprenticeship process where you kind of blindly follow the way that they are doing it, and then you start to understand why they are doing it that way. And related here, we start to understand why they are doing it. we start to find our own identity and our own unique capacity to do it in our own way after we borrow theirs. It's a very strange process, okay? We borrow theirs, we put on the cloak of how they do it, then we start to understand why it works. And then with time, we develop our own process. And it becomes an organic, generative path to develop our own skill, our own expertise, and our own unique way of doing it. Now, this way can be in any topic: sports, video games, writing, reading, craftsmanship, knitting, cooking. It doesn't matter. You can find an apprentice, or you can apprentice yourself to anyone in any field, especially with the rampant access of online mediums, of videos, master classes, whatever. It's there for you, okay? So a couple more examples. LeBron, when I was like 10 years old, I remember watching my first game of LeBron's ever. He was at New York, playing in New York in his last season in Cleveland before he came back. And I was just mesmerized. And I wanted to model my game after his. I wanted to be a complete player. I wanted to be able to do everything. And he was so inspirational in my quest to become as good a basketball player and as good an athlete as I could be, okay? So, and there's several others. I mean, I have some written down here. When I was in high school, I went through kind of a couple different dark periods. And one of the people who helped me get out of that was a spiritual teacher named Eckhart Tolle. He's pretty famous. You may have heard of him. And I was listening to a video that he was talking, and then I read his book later. And he became super, super, super important for a period of my life to just find some peace and kind of shed some of the darker things that were following me around. He was very important for that, and I recommend him for people dealing with all kinds of anxiety, depression, anything like that. He can be very helpful. Other people, like in nutrition, Dr. Berg online, when I was learning about health and doing keto for a while, I would just put on the information and the principles that he gave me. I would try them on, and then over time I would develop my own principles, okay? And this, within the apprenticeship model, you got to understand that it's not like you're not locked in to just have to do it their way. Certainly there's an emulation and imitation that takes place, but it's very, very important to remember that it is a experimental attitude towards your taking on of their expertise and then tinkering and playing and experimenting and trying everything within whatever field you are looking at, right? You are working on. It's very important to give yourself the permission and the freedom to experiment freely and rampantly within your pursuit, okay? So, wrapping up here, I would just encourage you, as I have committed, to finding other people to learn under, whether they're dead, alive. It's good to have at least one who's in person, I think, and that can be even a therapist. That can be an apprentice relationship, or a counselor, or a pastor, or all kinds of people, okay? I'd recommend trying to find at least one person who is pouring into your life in person, and then, read and watch videos and apprentice yourself to people who will never meet you, because that is part of the joy of being a human. Part of the joy of being able to learn is that you have libraries filled with thousands, maybe 10,000s of people who you could potentially apprentice yourself to and be so much better off for it. So I just encourage you to find someone, or to think about who's already in your life or who has been in your life to fulfill that role, and also to keep your eyes open to people that you can pour into. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. I appreciate your attention and your thoughtfulness. I hope this left you with some questions and maybe some incentive to find your own mentor and maybe mentor some others. So we'll see you guys in the next video, where we'll be talking about the second pillar of excellence, which I'm very excited about. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.